Okay guys, so welcome back again. So in this video, we'll be doing a quick crash course on Remix so that you are simply going to build better websites. And that's not what I am saying, but it is written on the Remix site that you are simply going to build better websites. So let's get started and let's learn a bit about Remix in this video. And by making this video, I would assure you that it would be a super easy tutorial on Remix, because I know that when you create a project using Remix, the amount of code you get in that project is kind of overwhelming and you do not know that where to start. And I would make this video as super simple as possible. So without wasting any time, let's dive into our code and let's create our first Remix project. So here I'm inside a project called tutorials, and here inside this folder I'm going to create a new remix project. So for that I need to simply say npx create remix at latest. That's only what you need to do, and you do not need to specify the project name. It would ask us for the folder in which we should create our remix project. So let's simply press enter here. So now we see this screen, so we need to give our app a name. So let's simply call it YouTube tutorial, simply like this. And now we need to provide in the deploy target. So here I would choose the Remix app server, and make sure you choose the Remix app server if you're continuing ahead with me. So let's press enter here. And here we can choose in TypeScript or JavaScript. So I would be choosing here JavaScript because some of you guys might not know TypeScript. So I'm simply choosing JavaScript here. And here it asks us whether to run npm install. So let's simply press enter that we do want to run npm install after the project is created, so that all the dependencies are being installed. So now the Remix project is bootstrapped. So let's cd into this folder that is called YouTube tutorial. Let me clear out the screen and let me do ls here. So we see that we have these files inside this folder. So why not let's open this folder inside VS Code, though you can use any text editor, but I prefer to use VS Code. So let me open it in VS Code. So now we are inside the project here, and if we have a look at the package.json file, we see that we have these dependencies here. That is Remix Run, React, React DOM, Remix, and Remix Run Serve. So that's all what we have inside the package.json file. And without looking into the folder structure here, let me simply close this package.json file and let me simply start this application by doing npm run dev so that we can see that what is provided by default. So let me close the package.json file and let me open my terminal here. And now what I'll do, I'll simply do npm run dev. And now what I'll do, I'll go to my browser here on port 3000 because the application is started on localhost port 3000. So let's go to a browser here and let's reload this page because I'm on localhost port 3000. And we see that we have this application here. Nothing fancy inside here. So what I'll do, I'll go to my application back inside VS Code, and here if I open this app folder, we see that we have this root.jsx file, entry client.jsx file, entry server.jsx file. And I would be coming to each and every file and each and every folder that is present here inside this Remix project. But the first thing you are interested is how to create routes inside your application. So let's open the routes file here, and here we can see we have the index.jsx route. And basically the routing inside Remix is pretty much the same as Next.js, though in future I won't be comparing Remix and Next.js side by side whenever I'll do something, because if you already know Next.js, then you totally understand that's what's common between Next.js and Remix. But for those of you who don't know Next.js, then it would be like unnecessary for you guys to know the comparison between Next.js and Remix. So that's not what I'm going to do. I won't be comparing Remix and Next.js in this video, but here I would be simply talking about Remix. So here if we open the index.jsx file, we see that we have a simple functional component here where we see that export default function index, and here this is what we are seeing on the page here on the index page or on the index route. So welcome to Remix, and then we have a UL list here, and inside that list we have a couple of li elements. So that's what we have currently here. So to make sure that this is what we are seeing here, we can see that we have an h1 and then we have a couple of li elements, and that's what we are seeing in this index route here. So let's try to change this index route a bit. So here we can have a paragraph tag as well, and here I can simply put in some lorem here, and if we save this, then we see that this paragraph tag is also rendered here inside our index route. So now let's see that how do we create a second route here. So let's simply call our second route /new and let's create that route. So it is pretty simple to do. You simply need to go inside your routes folder, not inside the app folder, but inside your routes folder, because each and every file that is present here would become a route. So let me simply create a new file here and let me call it simply new.jsx like this. And here let me simply export a functional component, and here let me simply call it new route or whatever you want to call it. So let me call it new tout. I misspelled it here, but it means that I can call this function by any name. So let me call it new tout here, and here I can simply put an h1 here inside this div, and let me simply say that is new route. Simply like this. So let's save this, and now if I go back to my browser here and if I simply go to /new, then we would be seeing that new route that is present here. So that's how easy it is to create routes inside a Remix application. So now we saw that to go to this /new route, we need to manually enter the URL here inside the address bar. So let's see that how do we create links to go to this new route. So it is pretty simple again. So let me simply go to the index route here, that is inside the routes folder. We need to go to the index.jsx file, and here we have these li elements. So let me simply add an element here inside the li, and that would be called link. So for that, let me import something from Remix. So I would say import something from Remix like this, and here I need to simply import link simply like this. And since this Remix thing is built by the same guys that make the React router, so you might be having a couple of common things like the link we have inside the React router. So that's what we have here as well, that is the link here. So here what I'll do, I'll simply put in a link element here, and here it would simply say that it's new page like this, and then this link should go to this new page. So here we can simply provide in /new, and that's all what you need to do to create a link here. And now I need to wrap this link inside its own li. So let me create an li here first, and here I would paste in this link here that is inside this UL. So let me save this, and now let's go back, and now we see that we have this new link here, that is new page. So if I simply click this new page here, we should be routed to that /new page. So if we click here, we see that we are routed to this new page without reloading the page here, and that's what is expected here. So now let's go back to our application again, and here if we have a look at the root.jsx file, we see that we have a couple of functions here. We have the meta function here, we have the app function here, and a couple of imports here. And for all these imports, that is what all these imports do, I would be coming to them later in the video. But the only thing you need to understand as of now is this, that here we have a functional component that is called app, and that is the default export of this file, that is root.jsx. And here we are simply exporting a document, that is an HTML document. As we can see that we have the HTML document starting and ending tags, then we have the head of the HTML document, and then we have the body of the HTML document. And whatever you see on this page, that is whatever you are seeing on this page, that is welcome to Remix and lorem ipsum. And if we go to another page, that is new page, we see this new route thing, that is all coming from this outlet thing. That is this outlet. And if we have a look at this, where this outlet comes from, it again comes from this Remix package. And we see that we have imported outlet here, and that's what makes us to see that is what all is inside the routes thing here. So we have a typical HTML document here, and inside the body we have an outlet here, and this outlet would contain each and everything that is coming from the routes thing here, that is from the routes folder here. So we have the index.jsx file, so we exported this function here, so that this all div thing is present inside this outlet thing here. And if we go to the new.jsx, we have a single div here. So what will happen is this, that this div, that is this div within h1, would be spitted out into this outlet thing here that is present here inside this body tags here. And these things, that is scroll restoration scripts and this LiveReload, I would be coming to them later in the video. Or for this LiveReload, I can explain it to you very easily because it has nothing to because it is only for development purposes. So we see that this LiveReload again comes from this Remix package. And if we open our terminal once again, we see that we are making this component available only when we are in development environment. And basically what it does is this, that as soon as we save our files or any of the files inside this project, then the application would be reloaded in the browser. So if I simply comment this line out from here and let me save it, and if I go to this new.jsx file, and here let me simply add in a paragraph tag like this, and let me put in lorem here, and if I save it again, and if I go here, we see that the application is not updated, and it is because I have disabled the live reload functionality of the remix package. And if I go back again, and if I go to my root.jsx file again, and if I simply uncomment this line again, that is process.env equal to development, then we should have a reload component here. So if we save this file, and now if I go to the new.jsx file, and here if I'll simply create an h2 here, that is live reload enable, so live reload reload enabled like this, and if I save this new.jsx file this time, we would see that this route has been updated here because of live reload. And that is the only reason we have live reload enabled only in the development environment, because it makes our development super easy, so that you do not have to refresh the browser again and again. So let me minimize the terminal here, and let me go to the root.jsx file. So now you know that what outlet means. Now you know that what live reload means. And for this scroll restoration and this scripts thing and this meta and links, I would be coming to them in a moment. So now let's have a look at this meta thing here. That is, what is this meta component doing here? And we also see that we have this function here, that is a meta function here, that is not a default export from this file, but instead it's a simple export from this file, that is export meta with return of title and new remix app. So let's go back once again to a browser, and let me simply go to view page source here for any of the routes, whether the index or the new route here. So if I'll simply view the page and I'll simply do line wrap here, we see that we must be getting the title here for the page, and that is called new remix app, and that is the title of the app that is provided inside the HTML element. And we see that we are getting this new remix app inside the title tags, and that is exactly what is written here, that is title new remix app. So what if we want to provide some metadata to our page, that is this new page? So what we can do, we can simply export in a function here called meta. So I can simply do export function, or how do I spell function here? So export function meta like this, and here what I can return the meta tags for this page. So let me simply give this page a title, not like this but like this. So I can simply call it new page like this, and then I can also provide in the description for this page, and this description might be useful for you if you are making a blog page or something like that, or a e-commerce page. So here let me simply give it a description like this is the description of the page like this. So let me save this, and now what would happen is this: whenever this route loads, that is /new route loads, this function, that is the meta function, and I insist that this function should be called meta only and not by any other name. So what will happen is this, that this function is returning these things here, that is the title and the description, and this title and description would be spitted out inside this meta component here, that is inside the head of your HTML document. So here we have the meta thing here, so that's what would contain what is exported, or what is exported by this meta function here. So now we see that we have the title for this page would be new page, and the description of this page is this description. Like this. So let's try it out. So let's go back again, let's close this browser page here, let's go back, let's reload the page, and let's go to this new page once again. And now we see that we have the title for this new page, and that is new page. And if we do view page source, and if we simply line wrap here, we see that we have the title of the page that says new page, and then we have a meta thing here, that is the name description, and this is the content of the description that we provided here. And in case you wanted to provide some more meta information about this page, then you can do that very easily. You simply need to provide in the key and the value pairs, that is the key value pairs for this page. And now let's have a look at this thing here, that is links. So if you understood that how meta works, then links would be super easy again, because whatever links are exported from any of the pages would be spitted out inside this links thing here, or inside this links component here. So let's go to a browser here and let's go to this route here, that is bulma.io site. If you have worked with Bulma, it's a pretty good library, that is a CSS library. And here what I need to show you, that if I simply right click here and I simply do view page source, we see that we have these things here. So let me increase the font size a little bit here. So we see that we have the simple HTML document starting with HTML, then we have some meta tags here, and then we have this links here, that is link relation to style sheet, and then we have the href attribute. So that's what you can provide it with the link attributes or with the link function, which we are just going to create in a moment. So let's say that if you want to provide in the reference library for the CSS, that is Bulma CSS, to your new page.jsx, so what you can do, if you need to provide this globally inside your application, then you can simply grab the let me zoom out. So let me simply grab the HTML link here. So let me simply grab the CSS library CDN here. So let me copy it from here. And now what I need to do to provide it globally to our application, what I can do, I can simply go to this root.jsx file, and here what I can do, I can simply export a function called links. So function links like this, and here I need to return an array, and inside that array would be containing objects, and an individual object would define a link. So if I go back to this page source again, so if I go here, we see that to define this link, we need to provide in a relation here, that is a style sheet, and then an href attribute, that is this URL. So to provide this link as a whole to this head element inside our HTML document, what I can do, I can simply provide an object here. So the first property of the object would be rel, and that would be simply style sheet like this, and then the href attribute, and this would be this URL that we just copied from the Bulma CSS. So if we simply save this thing here, so we see that if we go back to our application, we must see that our application must be styled differently. So if we go here, we see that our application is styled differently this time. And if we go back to the index page, we see that our application is styled according to the Bulma CSS style. And if I simply right click and let me close this window, and if I right click here and I do view page source, and if I line wrap here, we see that we have this link element here with the relation of a style sheet. So as you can see that this is a link element, and this is the style sheet that is coming from the CDN. So this is how you can provide links to your head element inside your HTML document. So that was pretty simple to do. And now what I can do, I can provide in as many links as I want to my whole application by providing in the number of objects containing individual links. So now what if I want to provide in a separate link to this new page that we just created? So what I can do, let me simply export in a function here called links again. So function would be called links like this, and then what I need to do, I need to simply return an array here containing objects for individual links. So let me simply provide in a rel here like this, and this would be again called a style sheet like this, and here let me simply provide in the href attribute, and let me simply provide in some lorem here, because I do not have a link as of now for any other style sheet. Let me simply provide it here as of now, and it is only for demonstration purposes, so that you should know that how links works inside different pages. So let me save this. So whatever you provide in root would be available to whole application, and whatever you provide inside an individual page, that link would only be available to that individual page. So if we save this and let's go back to our application, let's close this windows or these two windows, and if I reload here and if I right click and view page source, we see that we are on the index route here. We do not see that link with that style sheet and that lorem ipsum href. But if I simply go to this new page route here, and if I do view page source here, we must be seeing that link here. So let's increase the font size again. And now we see that we have this link that is relation of style sheet in href to be lorem ipsum, and that is the link we provided in for this page, that is this for this new page. So this is how you can add links or meta description to your individual pages. So let's close this and let's close this and let's go back again. And now what I'll do, I'll simply remove this style sheet from here, or this return statement from here, like this, because it doesn't make any sense. And let me also go to the root.jsx file, and I don't want to work with Bulma as of now because it's not a Bulma tutorial. So let me remove this link from now. And if I go back, we have the pretty default styling available here. So now let's see that how do we add in our custom styles. So to add in your custom styles, what you can do, you can create a folder inside your app folder that would be called styles. So that's the default standard of doing this thing here, that is styles, like this. And inside this styles folder, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a file that is simply going to be called global.css. So let me create a new file here. And it would be simply called global.css, like this. And inside this file, what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to provide something to my h1 here, and that would simply say that background color would be, let's say that it should be like blue, or let's say yellow, like this. And now I want to import this global.css file to my application. And if I go back here, we see that the new route is simply has a background color of white as of now. Even if we refresh the page, it doesn't have any effect. So what I can do, I can simply go to my root.jsx file here, and what I can do, I can simply import this CSS file from this style folder. So I can say import global style from, we can go to this folder, that is styles folder, and then we can simply import that global.css, simply like this. And now what you can do, you can simply use the links with this style sheet to make this style sheet available to your application. So what I can do, I can create an object here. The relation type would be style sheet. So let me copy this style sheet from here and let me paste it here. And then for the href, what you can do, you can simply provide in global style. Let me call it styles, simply like this. So let's save this, and if I go back to my application, we see that the new route has a background color, or the background color of the h1 is yellow in color. And if we go back to the home route or the index route, we see that we have again the yellow background color for an h1 here. So this is how you can add styles globally to your application. And in a very similar way, what you can do, you can create a style sheet if you want for an individual page. You can simply create a style sheet somewhere here inside this styles folder, and then what you can do, you can go to any other route in which you want to use a different style sheet, and then you can simply export that style sheet as a link here, that is from this links function here. So that style sheet would only be available to that individual route. So now let's again go back to this root.jsx file. So now we know that what meta means, what links means, what outlet means, what this LiveReload means. And now we have this script thing remaining and this scroll restoration remaining. And those two things, I'm going to come to them later in the video. So let's create a route here. So now what I'll do, I'll simply going to create another route here, and that would be called post route. So to create a post route, what I can do, I can either create a file here that is called post.jsx, or what I can do, I can simply right click here and I can simply create a folder here that would be called posts. And inside this post folder, what I can do, I can create a new file called index.jsx, simply like this. And now I can simply export in a functional component here, and this can be simply called post home, like this. And here let me simply return an h1 here, and that would be simply calling it post home, like this. So let's save this. So what would happen is this, that since this is a file-based routing system here, so if someone would go to /post, then this file, that is index.jsx, would be rendered. So to go to this /post route, we can create a link here inside the index.jsx file. So here I can simply create an li here again, and here I would simply create a link like this, and this would simply say post, and this should be going to /posts. Simply like this. So let's save this, and if we go back here, we have this post thing here. So if I simply click here, we see that we are inside the post home thing here. So now let's output some data inside this post home. So for that, what I'm going to do, since we do not have any kind of a database as of now, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this API, that is JSON placeholder API, to get a list of posts. So if we scroll down, we see that if we go to this URL, that is JSON placeholder api.ipcode.com/posts, we get back a list of 100 posts. So that's what we are going to use inside our Remix application to display the posts here inside the post home page. That is this post home page. So let's go back here inside our VS Code, and here inside the index.jsx post home route, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get data from that API, that is JSON placeholder API, to get a list of posts. And then I want to simply display a list here, which would simply contain links to individual posts, which should take us to that individual post. So I talked a lot. So let's see the action here. So to get data from a database or from an API, what you need to do, you can do either the plain React thing, that is getting the data from this post home thing here, that is from this thing here, to call the API and to get the post. But that's not what we are going to do. We are going to use some kind of a loader function here. So first, let me create a function called loader. So export const loader, or we can simply call it function here, and let me call it loader like this. And then what it returns an object here. So let me simply return an object here as of now. And make sure that you call this function a loader here. You do not need to call this function any other thing except loader. And now whatever is returned from this, you can have an access to that thing from this post home thing. And this is all done server side, not on client side. That is, whatever things you are writing inside this function, that is inside this loader function, it happens on the server. This is not the part of the client package. So whatever you write here is only confined to your server and not to the client. So you can put in your API keys, or you can directly access your database from this loader function, and the post home thing would be like magically connected to this data, whatever is returned from this return thing here. So to get data, or to get whatever is returned from here, so let's say if I simply return here, so let's simply return something from here as of now. So let's say post would be an array here, and this post should have a title. So let me spell it correctly. So title, my post, and then this post should have a description like this. Description would be some description like this, and let me save it to better format it. So now to get this data, that is this post data inside this post home thing, what we can use something from Remix, and we do not need to require this import React from React. It is not necessary for Remix. So here what you need to do, we need to import something from Remix like this, and we need to use here useLoaderData. That is, we need to use this hook that is called useLoaderData, and we are going to use this hook inside our post home component. So we'll say const data equal to useLoaderData, simply like this. And this is the beauty of Remix, that is, it is magically connected to this loader function whenever this component is mounted, or whenever this route is displayed. So for now, what I can do, I can simply console.log the data thing here. So console.log data like this, and let's see that what's all contained inside this data object here we get back from this useLoaderData thing here. So let's save it, and let's go back to a browser, and let's reload the page, and let's right click and inspect here, and let me go to the console here, and we see that we get back an object here, and this is coming from line number 12 from index.jsx, and that is what we have here inside the index.jsx. We have this console.log statement. So if we expand this object, we see that we get back an array of post objects, and we see that we have the title, we have the description here. So this is how this loader data, or this loader function, is connected to our front-end application, or to this post homepage. So let's actually get the post from this API. That is, let me copy the URL again. That is this /post. So here what I'll do, instead of returning post here, let me comment it out, or let it be like this as of now. So here what I need to do, I need to make a call to that API. So for that, I need to install Axios inside my package here. So what I'll do, I'll simply do npm I Axios. So like this is pretty old stuff, installing dependencies. And now what I'll do, I'll start the application in background once again. Let me minimize the terminal, and here what I'll say const response equal to await axios.get. We need to provide in the URL, that is this URL, and we already imported Axios automatically. And here what we can do, to get the post from this response object, we can access the response.data thing here, because in Axios, response.data contains the actual post data or the actual response body. So I can simply destructure this response to get the data only. And here, instead of returning my hard-coded post object, I can simply return here data like this. And one more thing, since we are using await here inside this loader function, so we need to mark this function as async. So I can say async function loader like this. And if I save this, and if I go back to my browser here, and if I reload, or even without reloading, I can see that this time I get back a list of posts, which is an array of 100 posts, which we get back from the placeholder API. So now let's output them inside a list, inside my post route here. So instead of logging it here, what I can do, I can simply make a UL here, and here let me scroll down, and here what I can say, I can use a JSX expression, and here I can say data.post posts like this, because this data can contain many other things apart from post, because this is an object here, and inside my data we have this post object here which contains an array. So that's why I need to do data.post.map like this, and then we have an individual post, and then I want to output a list here. So let me do it like this, so that I have the auto completion. And then what I want to display here, I want to display here links to the individual post, or for now let me simply log in the post.title thing here like this. And then we need to have a key here for the individual item, like this is some basic React stuff. So post.id like this. So if we save this, and if we go back to our browser, we see that this time we have a list of 100 posts here, as we can see here. So now what I want to do here is this, that whenever I click one of these links, or whenever I click one of these titles, I should be going to that individual post. So the route would look something like that, that is /post/ the ID of the post. Let's say the ID is 1. So I should be going to this route here, but currently it says that 404 not found, because this route is not found inside our application. And this is also what we are going to do later in the video. But for now, let's handle this route here, that is /post/1. So let's go back to our application, and instead of outputting a title here, like a text here, I want to wrap this post.title inside a link, and that link should be coming from Remix again. So link. And now I would wrap this post.title inside a link here. So I would say link like this, and this should come here, and this link should go to /post/ the ID of the post. And for that I'm going to use template string here. So I can say it like this, or I can do it like this, and it should be post.id like this. And since we are using template string, we need to wrap it inside a JSX expression. So this should work. And if I save this, and if I go back to my application, we see that we have these links here. So if I go to any link here, we see that we are going to /post/2, that is the ID of the post. But instead of getting not found here, I want to get the data from this post thing here, because if I go to this API here, that is placeholder API, if I go to /post/2, we get back an individual post here, which contains the title and the body. So that's what we want to see inside our Remix application. So let's go back to our application. And here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a route that is called a dynamic route. So the dynamic route starts with a $sign here. So since I want to go to /post/ the ID of the post, so what we can do, we can create a new file inside this post route, and here my file name should start with $, and this would basically create a dynamic route. And here I can simply say post id.jsx, and this post id can be any name. It can be like only id.jsx, or it can be like something.jsx, but you simply need to know that what you call this file name here. And here what I'm going to do, I'm again going to export a functional component here, and this should be like called individual post. So, or it can be called post with id, like this, whatever you want to call this functional component. And here I would simply say h1. So here I can simply say individual post as of now. So now what we can do, we can export a loader here inside this route, that is inside this dynamic route, to get the data from this post ID thing here. So how can we do that? It is pretty simple to do. Again we need to export a function here called loader, and again this function would be an async function because you want to use await inside this function, like this, and then this will return something. And this loader function has an access to the params object here. So here we can simply extract out params like this. And here what we can do for now, let me simply console.log the params thing here. And here also let it be like an empty return object here as of now. So let me save this, and if I go back to my application, and if I go back here, and let me do a refresh here, and if I go to this route here, we see that now we are getting something here that is called individual post, but we are not seeing any console log statements here in the browser, because though we made a log statement inside a loader, but since the loader runs on the server, so we do not see the log statements inside the console. So if we go back to VS Code and open our terminal here inside VS Code, we see that we get this log statement here, that is post ID is 4. And basically this post ID is coming from this file name here, that is post ID.jsx. And this is the name of the parameter here, that is post ID is 4. So what we can do, we can make a call to our API, that is the placeholder API. So what we can do, we can again say const data equal to await axios.get, and here I need to use template string, and here I can simply copy the Axios URL or the placeholder URL for this post. So let me copy this post thing for this URL here, and let's go back, and here let me paste it, and instead of hard-coded 2 here, let me put in a dynamic ID here, and that would be params.postid. Simply like this. Or what you can do, you can simply destructure post ID from params here. So, and finally what you need to return here, we can simply return post would be this data here. And inside our application, what I can do, I can simply log this data, or I can simply get this data from this loader by using the useLoaderData hook. And again, we do not require import React from React. Here we can say import useLoaderData from Remix, like this, and here I can say const data equal to useLoaderData, like this. And finally what we can do, we can display the data inside the pre-tags, or the individual post inside the pre-tag. So for that I'm going to use the pre-HTML tags, and here I can simply say json.stringify data.post null 2, simply like this. So let's save this, and if we go back to our application, we go back to our Remix application, and we see that now we have the pre-tag here with the information inside this pre-tags here, that is the ID, the title, and the body. And if we go back here again, we can go to any route here. So we see this time with the ID of the post is 11, and we have the title, and so on and so forth. So now let's go back again and let's see something else. So let's go here, and now you know that how to get data from an API, and how to get and how to show that data inside the dynamic routes. And what all I'm doing here is this, that I'm simply calling an API, but instead what you can do, you can query your database here directly from inside this loader function, and then you can simply return that data here, because again I'm specifying this thing here, that is this loader function is run on the server side and not on the client side. Whatever JavaScript is written inside this loader function, or whatever TypeScript is written inside this loader function here, is only a part of the server, and it is never sent back to the client. Only the data that is returned from here would be sent back to the client. So now let's see one more thing, that is how do we create an individual post. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to my post folder here and I'm going to create a new route here that would be simply called new.jsx, simply like this. And this is only a convention here, that is to create a new post, I need to create a new route here. So here what I'm going to do again, I'm going to again export a functional component, and this would be like create post like this. And again, we do not need to import React from React. And here this would simply say create a new post, simply like this. So let's save this and let's make a link to this route from our index.jsx. So here I can simply create a link li, and this would be simple. Let me simply copy this route here and let me paste this link here, and this should finally take us to /post/new, and this should say create new post. So let's save this and let's go back to our application and let's go back to our home page here. So now we see that we have a route here that is create new post. So if I click on this route, or let me close this console here. So if I click on create new post, we see that we are inside this route called create new post. So here what we want to have some kind of a form here, and we want to handle that form inside our backend or on our backend. So what we can do, we can go back to our application once again, and let's go to this new.jsx file inside the post route. And here let me create the form. So now to create the form, either you can use the plain HTML form element or the form tags, but there is a better way to do that, and that is to import form component from the Remix package. So here I can simply say import form, and make sure form is in caps here, or it's styled, or it is in title case here. So import form from Remix. And then inside this functional component, what I need to do, I need to use this form element or this form component. And here this form should has an action here, like a typical action which you have on HTML form elements. So the action would be something and the method would be something. So method is post here. So for the action, you can provide in any URL, but since I want to submit it to the same URL, I can remove the action thing from here, and I only want to provide a method here, that is post. That is whatever data is submitted from this post, from this form, would be submitted to our backend server as a post request. So here I can simply say I can have a label here. So label would be like a title, like title of the post. Then here I can have an input element. So input element type would be text, ID would be again title, simply like this, and the name would be again title. So title like this, simply like this. And let me again copy this thing, that is this label and this input element, and let me put a break statement in between, and this should only say body of the post. So body like this. So type would be text, ID would be body, name would be body, and this should say body, simply like this. And finally, we need to have a submit button for our form. So here we can simply have a button, type would be submit like this, and here it should simply say create new post, simply like this. So let's save it and let's have a look in the browser. So here we have a pretty ugly looking form, as we can see. So now how do we handle this form inside a Remix application? It is pretty simple to do. So like to get data from our Remix application, we use loaders. So now to handle form submissions, what we can do, we can export in a function called actions from our route to handle whatever type of request or whatever type of HTTP request is coming from the browser. So here we need to export in a function. So function would be actions, and it should be an async function because I'm going to use await here inside this function here. So inside actions, we have an access to the request object. So we can say it like this. So request, because we can destructure request from this parameter that is coming inside this actions function, and we have access to this request object. So to get form data from this request, what we can do, we can simply say const form data equal to await request.form data, simply like this. And now to get the title and the body, that is this, because these are the two fields that is coming inside the form data, we can get them very easily. So we can simply say const title equal to form data dot get title like this, and const body equal to form data dot get body, simply like this. And now whatever you want to do with this title and body, so let me make a comment here. So here you can do whatever you wanna do with this title and body. Like you can make a post request to your API route if you have one to create a new post, or you can directly make a query to your database, not the query, or you can directly make a request to your database to save this form data inside your database. That is, you can create a new post inside your database directly from this actions function, because again this actions is not a part of the client side JavaScript, it is only run on the server side. And finally, after doing whatever stuff you want to do with this title and body, you can redirect the user back to the /post page. So to do that, what you need to do, you need to import redirect from Remix again. And finally, we can simply say return redirect /post. So that we are going to, so we are taken to the /post page. And to show this behavior, what I want to do, I want to create a timeout function here so that it takes some time to execute this actions function. So for that, I'm simply going to copy a piece of code from my repo here. That is a delay function using promises. So let me copy and let me paste it here. And it's a super simple promise here that resolves after whatever the timeout is specified. Otherwise, it is 1 second. So you can copy this piece of code if you want to simply see this in the action. And here I can simply say, before redirecting the user, I would simply say await a delay of 2 seconds. So it is simply mimicking that we are saving this form inside our database. And if we save this application and if we go back to our browser here and if we reload this page and if we provide in some title here, so that is let's say truly, and body would be like mafia, like that's my kid. And now if I click on this button here, that is create new post, we should be redirected to the /post page after 2 seconds. So we see that it is not submitting. So if we right click and click on inspect, and if we open our console here, so we see that we get an error here, and it is saying that our route does not have an action function here. So that was my mistake. I said that it needs to be called actions, but instead it should be only called action and not with an S. So let's fix that issue. So this function should be only called action here. So let me call it action here. So let's save it again and let's try it again. So let's put a title here like truly and mafia, and let's click on create new post. And let's wait for a couple of seconds, and we see that we are redirected back to the /post page after 2 seconds. So this is how this thing works. And let me show you one more thing inside this thing itself. So if I click on /new, so now here let me show you one more thing. That is, we saw that we are redirected back after to the /post page after 2 seconds. But how to show a loading spinner here somewhere inside this button? So what we can do, we can use something called useTransition from this Remix package. So we can say useTransition like this. And now what I'll do, I'll use this transition inside this create post component. So I can say const transition equal to useTransition, simply like this. And let's simply log it inside the console to see that what's inside this transition object here. So let's save it. So let's go back again and let's open the console here, not the page source, but to the console. So let's open the console here. So click. So we see that we get back an object here from that useTransition hook. And here we have the state here that is currently idle. So once we click on this button here, that is create new post, this status would be submitting. So if I simply, or let me make a line here somewhere below this button that simply says submitting, or this is state. So let's go back here, and here what I can do after the form thing here, let me put in h3 here, and here I can say submitting state would be something, and that something would be transition.state like this. So let's save this and let's go back to our application. So currently we see that we are in an idle state and we can keep our button enabled. Once I put in the title and the body, so title and body, just ignore the spelling mistakes. And now once I click this create post, this status would be like something else. And that should be submitting, I guess. So if I click on create new post, we see that this status was submitting. So that's what we get in the log statements as well. So this is how you can display a loading indicator somewhere inside your application. And now there might be a case that you do not want to get redirected to another page, but instead you wanted to stay on the same page. That is, when we create a new post, we should be staying on this page itself instead of redirects. So to handle that stuff, it is pretty simple to do. Let's go back here inside our action function here, and instead of using this return redirect post, what we can do, we can simply send back an object here or whatever data you want to send back to the client. So instead of redirect, I can simply say return an object here, and here I can simply return back this title and body for now, only for demonstration purposes. So here we are simply returning this thing here. Or instead, if you were making a database call, then you would have returned the saved data object, that is, or the saved post object that is saved inside your database. But for now, let me simply return this title and body. So let's save this. And now to get this action data, that is whatever data is returned from this return thing here, we need to use another hook, and that is called useActionData. So here I can simply say useActionData, or I can import useActionData from Remix. And here inside my component, that is create post component, I can use that hook here, that is const data would be equal to useActionData, simply like this. And for now, let me simply log it here. So console.log data, like this. So whatever is returned from this action function would be available by using this hook, that is called useActionData. So let's save this and let's go back to a browser. And let me clear out the console. And here for the title, let me provide in truly again. And for the body, let me provide in the mafia again, like this. So let's create a new post. And after a couple of seconds, we see that we get back this object here, that is title, truly, body, mafia, and that is what is returned from our action function. If we can see it again, we see that we are only returning title and body. And if I returned here one more thing, that is ID 101, simply like this, only for clarity purposes, we would be seeing this ID as well. So let me put in another title. So title and body would be body. So let's create a new post. Let's wait for a couple of seconds, and we see that this time we get back the title, we get back the body, we get back the ID as well. And we are staying on the same page here. So this is how you handle a post route. And now how do you handle the put, patch and delete requests inside your application? Because currently we saw that we are handling the post request here. So again, that is pretty simple to do. So currently what would happen is this, that whatever the type of request is coming from the front end, that is whether it's a post request, put request, patch request or delete request, it would be handled in the same way. But instead what you can do, you can make a switch statement here. So you can do switch request dot method, and then you would be having individual cases here. So the first case would be the post case, or if you want to handle delete first, you can do that as well. And similarly, you would be having other cases as well. So let me copy and let me paste it here only for reference, simply like this. So here in this case, you would be handling the post request. So since this was whatever I wanted to do here, I can do it like this. So let me cut it out from here and let me paste it here. So let's save it. So this case would handle the post request. And similarly, if it was a put request, you would have used the form data the same way, and then you would have made a database request to put in the data or to patch the data or to delete the data. So this is how you can handle the other cases as well, that is put, patch and delete. I'm not going too much into detail about put, patch and delete, but it works the same way as the post thing does here. You can handle the logic about REST APIs if you know that is how REST APIs work. So you know that what I'm talking about here. So currently we saw that in Remix applications, we need to create a page and then only we can display the data in the UI. So what about the API calls, or what about the API routes? It is pretty simple to do. Inside your routes folder, what you can do, you can create another folder called API. Simply like this, and this API is only my preference to create API routes. It need not be this name, it can be any name. And inside this folder, what I'm going to do, I can create another route here. So let's call it post.jsx, simply like this. And here what I want to do, I want to export in a function called loader. So export function loader like this, and then I want to return something. And what I want to return, I simply want to copy and paste some code from my index post.jsx route. So here what I can do, I can simply copy this data from this thing from here, and I want to paste it inside this route here, that inside this loader function. And here let me import Axios as well. So import Axios from Axios. So that's all what you need to do. You do not need to export in a functional component here, because if you would do that, then this would be another page route. So instead of returning the JSON object, you would be returning the document here. That is the HTML document. So you do not need to create a functional component here or a class component. So you simply need to create a loader function to get data, and I would show you that how it would look like. And before going to the browser, let me mark this function as an async function because we are using await here. So let it be an async function. So let's save this. So let's go back to our browser, and here let me open another page. So let's go to localhost port 3000/API/post, simply like this. And now we see that we are inside /API because this is the folder in which our post routes resides. So that is why I'm calling it /API/post. So once I do enter here, we see that we get back a list of 100 posts that is coming from an API, simply like this. And in the same way, if you want to handle the post, put, patch and delete request inside your API routes, what you can do, we can simply export in an action function. So export async function action like this, and here we have the access to the request object. So request, and here again you can use the switch case, that is switch request.method, and then you can handle those cases as well. So like this, that is switch request.method, and you can handle the post request, you can handle the put request, patch request and delete request. So this is how you can handle the post, put, patch and delete requests inside your API. And once again, you do not need to export in a functional component from this route, that is post route. So now let me show you one more thing, and that is nested routing. So for that, what I need to do, let me go back to my application, and let me go back to this application. Let me go back to this home route. So we are inside the index route here, and if I wanted to go to the post thing here, we see that we are getting posts here. And if I go to the individual post, we see that we are getting individual posts. So what if you wanted a navigation somewhere here only for these two routes, that is /post and this individual post route? You can nest a route inside a route. And instead of me talking much about it, let me show it to you in action. So for that, what I need to do, inside my routes folder, not inside the post folder, inside my routes folder, I need to create a new file that should be called post.jsx. That is the same name as my folder name here. So let me export in a functional component from here, and if I call it post main like this, and let it be called post main, and here I want to have a UL element, and inside this UL let me have an li here, and inside this li I would be having the link like this from Remix, again from Remix, link is coming from Remix, and inside this link I would simply say post home like this, and let me create one more link, and this should be called create post like this, and this should go to /post, and it is for a reason I am simply showing it to you, and this would again take us to /post/new like this. So let me save this, and now watch what would happen. and this link should be inside another li. So let it be like this, So let's go back to our application. So let's refresh. So let's go back to our browser. So once we go to this post route here, watch what would happen. So let me close the terminal as well, console as well. So watch what would happen. So previously we were getting the list of 100 posts. So if I go to this post route, we see that this time we are getting the post main route, which says post home and create post. If I go to create post route, we see that we are not able to get that form. And even if I go to that individual route, that is for an individual post, we are only seeing this post main page. And this is coming from this post.jsx file. So now to create an outlet for these individual routes inside this post folder, what I can do, I can create an outlet somewhere here inside my post main function or post main function component. So for that, I need to import something from Remix. So I can say outlet, because we need to import outlet from Remix. And now here after the UL, what I would do, I would create a div. I just wanted to create a div, so I'm creating a div. Otherwise, you do not need to create a div. And for this div, I want to give it a style of, let's say, let's give it a background color. So background color of, let's say, hash fa like this. And now inside this div, I want to create an outlet, that is this outlet component which I imported from Remix. I would simply say outlet like this. And if you remember, inside our root.jsx file, we have a component like this, that is an outlet component, in which whatever routes were present were spitted out. Like we have this outlet inside this body, and this is the same kind of outlet that we created here inside the post.jsx. So this is the outlet here. So whatever would be inside this post folder would be spitted out inside this outlet component here. So once I save this and see the magic, so we see that we are on this post /2. So let's go to the home page first. So let's go to so then it would make more sense. So now if I go to the post page, we see that we are firstly getting the post main thing here. We can see the navigation here, and then we are also seeing the post home component that is spitted out inside the outlet component. And if I go to this create post page, we see we have the create post page as well. And if I go to the post home, we can go to any other route here. We can see the individual post. So you can use the main component as the parent component of all your individual routes that are present inside this post folder. So now let me talk about one more thing, that is scroll restoration inside our root.jsx. So we see that we are getting seeing this component here, that is scroll restoration, and this is imported from Remix as well. So what it means is this, that let's go back to our application and let's go to the home page here. So we see that if we scroll down here somewhere, and if I go to any route here, so let's go to this route. We see that we are seeing this individual post. And if I go back by pressing the back button, we see that we are at the same scroll position as we were before. If I do not include this scroll restoration, then what would happen is this, that I would be simply scrolled at the very top of this post page. So let me refresh the page once again. So we are here, and if I scroll down somewhere here, and if I click on any of the post ID here, we see that we are taken to that individual post ID. But as soon as I click back, we see that we are back at the very top of our this post page, and we are not scrolled to that same scroll position as we were when we clicked on that item. So that is the meaning of this scroll restoration. So there is no point of you being not enabling it unless and until required. And now let me show you that how do we handle the errors inside our application, because if we go back to our application and if we go to any route here, and let me go to this route, that is 313, which doesn't exist. So we see that we get back this ugly looking error, that is application error. So how do we handle this kind of an application error? So it is pretty simple to do. So for that, either you can handle individual errors inside your individual routes, but we can have a global error handler here. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to the root.jsx element of my application, and here I need to export in one more component, and that is called error boundary. So here what I can say, I can export something. So export function called error boundary, and you need to call this function by the very same name. And this error boundary takes in an error, or it receives error as a prop here. And here what I can do, I can simply return something. So what I can return a div here with an h2. So error like this, and here inside in h3 I can display an error message, though you can have a better looking form or a better looking error handler or a better looking error UI. So I can simply display in the error.message. So let's save this, and if I go back to my application and let's reload, we see that this time we are getting our own stuff, that is error and request field with status code 404. So this is how you can handle in your, or you can make in your own error page. So that's about this error handling stuff. So let's go back. And now let me talk about this folder structure here, and that is the last thing I'm going to do in this video. So we see that apart from the app folder, we have this build folder, we have the typical node modules folder, and then we have the public folder. And then inside the public folder, we also have the build folder. Though you should not manually touch these folders, that is this build folder and this build folder, because it is automatically generated by Remix and they are automatically like refreshed by this Remix package. But the meaning of having two build folders here is this, that inside the public build folder, you would be having all the public files that are accessible by the client, and inside this build folder that is present inside your root project directory would be simply containing your server files. So that is the reason of having two build folders here. So guys, that's all about this video. So if you have liked the video, do hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel till now, do subscribe to the channel, and it motivates me to build better videos. So thank you, bye bye, tata, take care, and have a good day and have a great day.